Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Downer. I am here with Brian Wirtz. Brian is the founder and visionary of W3 Integrator Arena. How are we doing today, Brian?
Doing great, Mike. Love every one of these conversations. So glad to do another.
I learn a lot. Every time I get done with one of these, I feel smarter, Brian.
These are fun. A lot of fun.
So Brian is a retired Marine, as we all know, who has transitioned into the entrepreneurial world as a fractional integrator for companies running on EOS. And now Brian is just helping other people do the same and becoming brilliant in the basics. So today we're going to be talking about perfecting the blend. And what I mean by that, Brian, is the integrator's role in the VI relationship. So what we're going to be doing is defining the integrator's role in creating and maintaining and strengthening the Visionary-Integrator relationship. So, Brian, as we wrap up the series, what we have to talk about is the Visionary-Integrator relationship. You've talked about this a lot, but we've never really addressed it. So, from your perspective, why is this relationship so critical to the success of the organization?
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate the question. And even beyond just from my perspective, EOS and the whole rocket fuel concept is this concept of the visionary, often but not always the founder, the owner that starts an organization, but not always. And the integrator, who's that internal, driving drumbeat of the organization, helping to move things forward. The whole rocket fuel concept is these two working together as a strong partnership, almost like opposites that fuel each other, kind of like a yin and a yang, or
Yep.
EOS has a lot of ways to present this concept, but the whole idea, the concept that you can pick up out of the book Rocket Fuel is that it's the essential combination to fuel the growth of a business, is that this two-headed leadership dynamic. And I believe, with that, it takes a lot to find the right blend of the right visionary and integrator. And I believe it also takes some work, right? Even beyond just the finding the right person for the right seat, it takes some work for these two to become the right partner for each other. And it's not something that can be taken for granted that it's going to happen right away. So when I say perfecting the blend, I'm making the assumption it's not perfect when it starts, and it needs to be getting better over time.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense. So when this relationship works well, what is the integrator doing to make this happen?
Well, first of all, both the visionary and the integrator are accountable for showing up at 100% and being respectful and treating their relationship with the level of mutual respect, with the level of integrity and honesty and commitment to driving the business. It happens equally on both sides. But if we look at the gifts of the visionary and the gifts of the integrator is the one who frankly has to probably be the heavy lean into making sure that relationship is intentionally developed, right? So
right.
A visionary is not likely a person. Leadership and management is typically not in their strong suit. That just doesn't typically go with the visionary DNA, where it does with the integrator. So that means for this relationship to work, by definition of where their strong suits are, the integrator has to be the one that drives to make this happen.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So how should integrators think about their responsibility in managing and strengthening that relationship?
So to kind of build on that last, what I was just saying. So if it's the integrator's accountability to make that happen, I think there's at a minimum, they're scheduling the same page meetings, and they're making sure that they are taking the time to be the inviting party to get the visionary where they need to be when we need to have these one-on-one conversations. Again, same page meetings. Sometimes it's tactical check-ins. they also, and this is where the visionary and the integrator have to be good partners for one another, but the integrator also needs to be super attentive to like, how do I understand my visionary? Do I understand where their strengths and gaps are? I am the person in this organization. I'm the one person in this organization that is supposed to be a partner to this visionary. And therefore, I should be thinking, how can I help them be better? How can I provide them direct feedback? Can I provide them coaching? Not in any way other than in a way that's going to help them be a better visionary for our organization. And do that in a way that makes sense for us and that's going to move us forward. So the integrator is that catalyst to get the best out of this relationship.
So before, you were talking about perfecting the blend when describing this partnership between the visionary and the integrator. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by perfecting the blend?
So I love that question. I actually put together a presentation. I've shared it in a couple of different audiences, and I've used the pH scale, like know, the pH scale where you have everything from acidic to basic. So two different kind of opposite ends, and then you have right in the middle of neutral kind of water, and every substance has this natural state, right? And there are different places along the pH scale. But perfecting the blend is so I live in California, right?
Okay.
And I have had New York pizza, and I've had New York pizza in New York, right? And other places in the country like to say we serve New York style pizza. But there's something, I'm not a water guy, I'm not a science guy per se, but there's something about the water in New York that makes New York pizza dough different than anywhere else in the world, right? That's
100% true from experience
of New York pizza. Well, in California, there's one pizza shop that says we replicate the pH of New York water, right? And so they advertise it having the best New York pizza that you can get outside New York because of their water, right? They said, and I think I've had pizza there, and it's pretty good. Yeah, it tastes. I'll leave it to a New Yorker to say if it's good enough. But pH is the natural state, and it affects everything else. So, when we hire, so if you think about how does a visionary integrator relationship develop, a visionary, often again an owner, a founder, someone like that, is ready to take on a higher level of leadership. They're ready to invest in bringing in an integrator. They hire it. They're going to go through a recruiting process, a hiring process where they're going to evaluate this candidate for core values. Are they a right person? Do they match the core values of the organization? And do they want, and have capacity to do the role? Chances are the person that makes it through those two, right person, right seat, litmus tests, is going to be a good person, right? They're going to be the right person. They match the core values, and they want and have capacity to do the role. They're going to be in the right seat. So now we have this right person, right seat, two right people, two right seats, visionary and integrator. And now what do? We put them, we form this team, and we put them on a journey. And then, so it's the honeymoon to start with, right? You have these two people that are working together, and it seems like all is going to be good. But then the reality of doing stuff in the business starts to happen. And what happens is they go through the same team forming scenario that any other team would be, the forming, storming, norming, and performing. So just because it's a two-person team, they're going to start at a great place. They're going to dip down, and they're going to be going through this storming stage where they're trying to understand each other and figure out how they can support each other, and probably getting frustrated with each other until they realize, wait, we got to fix some stuff. And then they start fixing it. And then eventually they get back to, hey, this is the potential where we started. This is what I saw in you. And that's, kind of our norming. And after that is when they start to perform. So what happens, that's perfecting the blend. It's realizing, it's understanding, it's actually expecting that little dip is going to occur, and planning how are we going to work with each other through this phase so that we can actually get to the other side, which is performing.
Perfect. That is a great explanation of that. And so I know we've been talking about the relationship between the two, but when the relationship is strong, how does that impact the rest of the leadership team and the organization as a whole?
Well, the relationship by definition should be strong, but it's not always there. So I'll take the opposite of it first.
Okay.
When the relationship is not strong, there's going to be a lot of confusion, lack of alignment. There might be disagreements popping up in meetings, in front of the leadership team. There's confusion. The vision is not really clarified. And there's all these things that are constantly getting in the way of achieving the vision traction organizer, right? Sometimes you have politicking at lower level teams where people are vying for, I'm on the integrator side, I'm on the visionary side. There's fiefdoms, all of this. It's a very unhealthy situation, right? And Patrick Lencioni talks about this first team concept, right? And first team means the leadership team is actually the most important team in the company, rather than the department level teams that filter out from the leadership team. Because when it's the departments, they're kind of like focused on like getting results for their department, but they're not focused on the greater good of the company. I'll take it one step farther, and I'll say that the true VI duo, the true number one team, is actually the two of them as a duo, and then the next level is the leadership team, and then it's department level. But that VI duo, when they're in sync, all those things that I talked about, if there's disagreements, they're happening behind closed doors. And when they go out and they're working with the team, they're on a united front. There's disagree and commit. But there's this strong alignment that, hey, I got your back, you got my back. There's mutual respect, and we need to be showing this united front so that at the leadership team, everyone else can show a united front, and we can be on the same page and we can execute our vision.
So that leads me, that was a great lead into what was on my mind next. So why do you think the relationship breaks down in so many organizations?
We're human. Not to put it into two words, but
no, that makes sense.
We have egos.
Yep.
It's hard work. We have to have hard conversations. There's so many ways. Like, this is not like, this takes work. And who wants to go through all that messiness I described of dealing with, like, hey, I hired this integrator who I expected to do all this stuff, but right now I'm down in the storming phase, and it feels really, really bad. I'm second guessing this guy or gal to think that they even belong here. And what the heck? I sure as hell don't want to put a mirror up in my own face, because then I might have to admit that I have to do something differently, right? Like, and so there's all these reasons why maybe I don't want to work on me. Maybe they don't want to work on them. Maybe we both are willing to work on ourselves, but we don't want to work on the relationship. Maybe we make it all the way through that J curve and get to the other side, but then we lose focus and we go back down into it again, right? So it's hard. So the answer is we're human and it's hard work. And if we don't stay on top of it, it's like going on a diet, getting in shape, whatever, and you're so proud of yourself because you made it. But then when you stop maintaining, guess what happens? It all comes right back. So that's why that's what can happen.
Perfect. Well, in that relationship, since we're focusing very much so on the integrators, Brian, where do you see integrators fall short in how they manage the relationship?
I have to be really careful, because I don't want to like put my integrator pals, my peers on blast. That's not the intention here at all.
I wouldn't go into specifics, but just in general.
I'm not going to go into specifics, but I do want to say, I think too many integrators expect the visionary to show up the way they want them to show up. Okay. Right? They're like, I'm the integrator. Like, I'm going to show up. I care. I'm going to do my part. and I expect the visionary to show up and do his or her part, right?
Yep.
And I kicked this whole segment off. Like, the visionary is accountable for who they are. They're accountable for doing their part. But integrator, if you think that you're going to both show up to the table in the same way and you're going to get the results you want to improve the relationship, you're going to miss the boat. As the integrator, you have to understand it's your role to get what you need out of your visionary, right? To lead them to where they need to be, to help partner with you in a better place. So you should be the one creatively thinking of these things. Now, there's exceptions to this. This isn't all encompassing, but visionaries by nature are not wired the same way we are. A lot of times their EQ, they're super smart, they're super effective. Sometimes they step on people, right? Like, as an integrator, we need to understand that and figure out, we should be thinking about, what can I do to get into his or her world in a meaningful way that can help drive this relationship forward that I haven't thought of yet. So when I say where the integrators are falling short or what they could do, this isn't a dig at integrators, and I'm not telling them to take accountability for bad behavior or things that the visionary will or won't do. What I am saying is you have to go more than 50%. You have to go farther. You have to be the driver of the change. And if you're not, sometimes it'll work out, and sometimes you're gonna struggle because it can be really challenging. And that's the unique gift you should be bringing to the relationship. So use it.
So sounds like you're just saying that they need to take ownership in the role, in this role in the relationship, rather than just expecting it to work naturally. Am I correct?
Yes, exactly. They have to.
So you taught me something today.
Yes, thank you. I like that. Well done. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. You kind of packaged it up for me nicely.
Well, good. I'm glad I actually learned something today. So when an integrator is doing this well, they've taken the ownership in the role. They're just doing a great job. What tends to change? Not just the relationship, but like in the business that they're dealing with.
Well, what changes is the health of the organization, because the relationship, again, as goes the VI duo, this visionary integrator relationship, so goes the leadership team. So when the VI duo are in sync, you can build a leadership team that stays in sync, and then you can build an organization that does as well. So it's we look at the top of the pyramid or top of the accountability chart, but really the VI duo, if you think about it, they are the foundation. They're at the bottom of the entire organization, supporting it upward. And so when they're in sync, they have a healthy leadership team, which then supports the rest of the organization. You've built that foundation. So what you see is less confusion, more execution, more effective discussions, growing people, developing people. I mean, all those things start to happen just because these two are in sync with one another.
That's really cool. So, without getting into like any specifics, but you've had quite a few years of doing this, have seen a lot and have learned a lot. Can you share an example of one of the VI relationships that wasn't working in the beginning, and what changed when it started to work, and what improved for the company?
Yeah. So I would say one of the visionary relationships that I'm very well understanding of is, new visionary seeks out a fractional integrator as kind of a bridge to get to a full-time integrator, right? Yep. And while that fractional is coming in, the visionary maybe doesn't have 100% clarity and certainty of what to expect of this individual. And also, they're kind of expecting a lot of miracles, right? Because they've never had an integrator before. They're promised like, hey, hire an integrator. They're going to make all the stuff happen. And so then there's this expectation mismatch, right? And if the integrator's coming in, and in this case, an integrator came in and they started like supporting stuff, but they weren't a good counterbalance for this high-speed visionary with like a mind that's on hyperdrive with ideas. Integrator comes in, have a good L10, have good to-dos, have a lot of good action, and having good meetings. Integrator leaves, they're fractional, they're gone for a week. Meanwhile, the visionary has a hard time packaging everything that he wants to see happen into the business, into the EOS structure, so he's doing end runs like crazy. He's doing, which are basically when they're reaching down in the organization. When you're fractionals, there have to be some connections usually outside of you, but at the same time, the visionary is like retasking, doing all this stuff during the week. So one or two things would happen every time we had the next meeting. Either people were completely worn out because they did everything they were supposed to do from the L10, plus all the other stuff that they had to do because the visionary loaded them up, or the opposite was something would suffer, and it was usually the stuff that we were talking about in the L10 and not the stuff that was getting tasked directly by the visionary. So that was the week not having a strong visionary integrator relationship. How that has improved has been through a lot of work with that visionary, helping the visionary understand, hey, we're here, I'm here, the integrator is here to help you package everything you want to do, filter it down, take the best ideas, and not have all this other stuff happening throughout the week. So getting the visionary enrollment in like containing himself, containing some of those ideas were a big part of that. And now it's better, right? I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's better. There's a lot less of the visionary creating chaos throughout the week and a lot more of the integrator providing that feedback, making sure he's asking, like, if we're doing this, are we staying consistent with your expectations? And using things like tools to figure out, hey, I know this is something that seems really important. Can we put some tools around it to decide if it really belongs as a new item on our list? It's on the issues list. So there's been a real progression from heavy visionary chaos and organizational whiplash to a more sustainable and vision traction organized VTO focused organization that's operating with discipline.
Perfect. So let's now we're going to go on the rosy side of things. We've talked about all the different things that everyone is responsible for and what their roles are. So can you tell me what it looks like when the partnership is truly working at a high level? The good side of the picture, the great side of the picture.
Yeah. Well, it's that alignment that I talked about. I talked about the foundation and what tends to happen in the business is that velocity. Things start to feel fun. You start to realize what that EOS life, is really all about. Of like, you start to see some of the rewards that you expected at the beginning of the EOS journey, and that can be a really good feeling because you're building your people. You're hopefully, if the market conditions allow and you're doing all the right stuff, you're actually making money and you're hitting your goals and your objectives. There's a lot of wins. Right? When you have true visionary integrator alignment, you start to see a lot of wins in the business, and you realize your VTO, right? Like, I talk about W3 stands for winning with warriors, and I like winning. Like I like to help other teams win, and it starts with that strong visionary integrator alignment.
That was a great answer, and that's why I know you like to win, Brian, and that's why I wanted to end it on such a winning positive note, because I know that's your ultimate goal, and I know you've helped a lot of companies win. So let's just wind this up, and like we always do, for that integrator who's listening to this and we're clearing up questions, So for an integrator listening to this series and wanting to become more effective, not just in the role, but how they lead this partnership, what do you think they should focus on first?
That's a great, great question, just in the sense of like, where do you go? So I think it's very consistent with what I've been saying. If you're, there's a lot of resources out there. I definitely think you should, start with rocket fuel, start with the EOS content, and the book Rocket Fuel, the training series they have in the EOS Academy for building that visionary integrator relationship. And then I'll go back to like, keep feeding yourself with that knowledge, growing, learning, and then build a peer group, right? Become a part of a peer group where you can learn from others. You don't have to hold that weight all on your own shoulders. But then finally, I would say, learn your visionary and seek out the tools that will work with your visionary and will help you become most effective in supporting and growing him or her and your relationship.
Perfect. You've given excellent answers today. I think that, a lot of the integrators that are listening today, maybe some of them don't even think about the relationship in the light that you've brought it to today. So thank you for doing that for us, Brian. It's been very educational. As always, I look forward to our next talk. And sadly, this is one that you and I could talk about for hours, but unfortunately, we've got limited time. So thank you so much for taking the time and teaching me a lot today, and hopefully teaching a lot of folks out there.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Love these conversations.
Me too. I look forward to our next one. Thanks a lot, Brian.